Hey everybody, it's Angie and welcome to Hot and Flashy. And welcome back to Foundation Friday for over 50s. I know, it's been like a minute since I've done one of these. It's actually been a couple of months. I did a mess of them in February and then I guess I got distracted by other things. So now it's May, and today we're going to take a look at Revlon Candid Photo Ready Natural Finish Anti-Pollution Foundation. And I actually started trying this back in February. So in some of the footage when I go outside, you'll see that there's snow on the ground. I've worn this for 2 days already. Today's the third day. Two were in the dead of winter, one is in the spring. So you get a pretty good look-see at what this is all about. Plus, also on mature, less than perfect skin. We will zoom in super close. Don't you worry, you will see everything. It retails for $10.99 for 3/4 of an ounce, so not a full ounce in here, and it comes in 31 shades. According to Revlon, this is a creamy, moisturizing, protective foundation with medium coverage, natural, flawless looking finish that is supposed to be weightless, also has anti-pollution, antioxidant, and anti-blue light ingredients. So it comes in a nice little plastic squeezy tube with a pump on one end. And the ingredients on this are mainly silicones. It's water and then like 12 silicones. And it also contains green tea, cucumber extract, and vitamin C and E. And while it didn't have anything on the label that said, I'm a fragrance, this definitely does have a scent. It smelled really florally to me, like I felt like I could smell it pretty strongly when I was applying it, but I gotta say the floral scent does dissipate fairly quickly. For the shade range, I found it pretty easy to get a match. I usually struggle to find a match for myself, and in this one, went in, picked one out, and it was a perfect match for me. This is the shade 320 that I'm wearing today and showing you in the swatch here. All right, so as I said, I've worn this for 2 days already. Let's go into the first couple of the days' footage. So the first time I tried this foundation, I was wearing my Make Prem UV Defense Me sunscreen. I didn't use any primer with it. I put it on one side with my fingers. It's got a pretty thick, sticky texture that didn't really blend or cover very well with the fingers. It was a little streaky on my forehead and cheeks. Applying it with the brush gave about the same results. It doesn't really glide over the skin. Yeah, this just has very sheer coverage. Really like putting it on and not seeing much happening. The brush seemed to drag a little bit, and there were streaks on the brush side too. The coverage was uneven and fairly sheer with the first pump, so I added another half a pump with a blending sponge to even up the coverage and go over some of those streaks to make it a little bit more smooth. My age spots were still showing through, but redness was evened out. With 1.5 pumps, I feel like it gave sheer to medium coverage with a really pretty skin-like finish. It does cling to areas of drier skin though, and it skips over enlarged pores, and it also settled into wrinkles right away. It stays pretty tacky feeling for a while, but does eventually dry back. I didn't use any setting powder or setting sprays, just so I could see how the foundation works at baseline with no helpers. So at the 5-hour check-in, I gotta say I didn't really love it. I wasn't 100% thrilled with it, but I didn't really hate it either. What I noticed mainly is that it had come off in fingerprint-shaped marks on my cheeks where I had been resting my fingers on my face while I was editing some videos. It was fading and redness was showing through on my chin and cheeks. And where it had settled into my wrinkles in my forehead earlier, it was now cracked and there were some skin flakes showing up there. My upper lip looked more wrinkly where it had settled there too. At the 10-hour check-in, I thought it looked fine from a distance, mainly because it hadn't gotten any shinier in my T-zone, and it fades away in a natural looking way. It didn't accentuate my pores or textured skin throughout the day, but looking at it up close, there were lots of flakes around my hairline, forehead, and nose. All right, so definitely room for improvement from day 1. Let's move on to day 2. On day 2, I used a mixture of 2 of my favorite sunscreens, which are Elta MD UV Elements mixed with Paula's Choice Super Light Sunscreen. I also used the e.l.f. Prep and Blur Stick Primer on one side of my face and the Revlon Color Stay Prep and Protect Primer on the other side. And I applied the entire face with my damp Morphe blending sponge. I used 2 pumps of the foundation to get medium coverage. I definitely like how this foundation goes on best with a blending sponge. It goes on much better, much smoother, more even with the damp sponge. I set my T-zone with the Revlon Candid Anti-Pollution Setting Powder. For the rest of today's makeup, we have the ColourPop Fame palette. We have the Butter Bronzer, the Flower Bomb Blush. We have the Essence Pure Nude Highlighter. What else? We've got 2 mascaras going. We've got Neutrogena Hydro Boost on this eye, CoverGirl Exhibitionist on this eye. And for the lippy, I have Rimmel Stay Satin. And I was happy with how it looked with the rest of my makeup applied. I thought my pores looked smooth and the finish was really nice. And it felt lightweight and comfortable to wear. At the 5-hour check-in, I was much happier with it on this day than I was at 5 hours the day before. It was still in place and not accentuating texture. It didn't settle into my forehead wrinkles like it did the day before. So the only place that I think it's like settled into wrinkles and not looking great is right here. And this is only on the Revlon primer side, not on the e.l.f.'s primer side, but it just looks a little like wrinkly in there. It looked okay at the 10-hour mark. I like that it doesn't get shiny and doesn't slide around or break up on the surface. It does fade where I touch my face and on the usual places like my nose, chin, and around my eyebrows. And by the end of the day, I felt like the e.l.f. side looked slightly less worn than the Revlon side. So that day I also did the outdoor bright sunshine test and the kitchen lighting test. So let's go ahead and take a look at that footage now. I think this looked really, really good in the bright sunshine test. I mean, it's really amazing to me how super textured my skin looks sometimes in the bright sunshine. And you know, it's not like it erased my texture, nothing can. I thought it looked pretty good in the kitchen light. It definitely still had that smoothing effect on my skin. All right, so today is the 3rd day that I'm wearing it. Today I used just the Elta MD UV Elements SPF 44 sunscreen without the Paula's Choice mixed in. I also used a new primer that I've been experimenting with the last week or so. It is the Milk Hydro Grip Primer, and I use that in my T-zone to see if I could get a little bit longer wear out of this foundation. I also used the e.l.f. Blur and Prime Stick mainly on my cheeks because I find that that really does kind of fill my pores and help to make my skin look a little bit smoother. I also used it up here where I have the textured skin there. So today I used 2 pumps of the Candid and I put it on with a damp beauty blender sponge. And it gave medium coverage again. I don't really think that this is the kind of thing that you can build up to full coverage. I didn't really have much luck building it up. It seems to get to medium and then stop. I feel like today the luminosity from the sunscreen definitely came through the foundation and made it look much more of a dewy finish than it had before. So I added a light dusting of the Revlon Candid powder because I really like this. So I put that on my T-zone. I also hit it with a little setting spray to see if I could get the wear up a little bit as well. So I hit it with the Morphe Continuous Setting Spray, new fave of mine. So that's how I have it on today. I've had it on for about an hour so far. It doesn't seem to be settling in my wrinkles as much as it did the first day, but it does seem to be settling a little bit. So let me show you that. Here's how it looks up close. I'm pretty happy with it. I think it looks nice. I like the coverage, you know, it's fairly natural looking makeup, you know, it doesn't look super cakey, it doesn't look super made up. I think it's got a nice way of reflecting light. You see, it's just the tiniest bit settled in those wrinkles up there. You know, usually it'll settle in here. I don't really see that it's settled in there. It's not broken up on the surface. So it's a pretty nice looking foundation. All right, let's do the phone test. There's some shiny clean phone glass. Oh my God, I need a new piece of Gorilla Glass on the top. Let's see if we get transfer onto the phone screen. We'll just do a little pretend to talk here for 5 or 10 seconds and see what happens. Ooh. All right, that's a pretty decent looking face print we got on there. Alrighty, let me wash that off so that we could do the flash photography test. All right, so here's the flash picture with the lights on, and that looks pretty good. Let's look at the one in the darkened room. In the darkened room, I think it actually photographs pretty well. I mean, it's weird. I think I way over bronzed my forehead, and but I don't really feel like I'm getting any flashback off of the foundation. It's not giving me that like super white where you can actually see the powder. It's actually just giving me a nice highlighted look. So I actually kind of like how it looks in the picture, except that my lip looks sweaty. Just wanted to come back for a 5-hour check-in on the makeup. Today I added 2 primers, a setting spray, and the setting powder, and it is looking better than it was the other 2 days, but at 5 hours it's not, you know, fantastic. It's just the same things over and over again. Like in here, it's making my upper lip look just a little bit more wrinkly than I want it to, and that it does with my other foundations that I love. My nose is a little red, chin is a little red, and I feel like up here on my forehead, it's just a little bit not, oops, hello, focus. It's just not quite as great looking at 5 hours as I would like. All right, let's talk pros and cons. On the pros side, I would say the price obviously is a good pro on this one. It is smoothing on texture, that it has a lovely skin-like finish that I really, really like. I thought the shade range was pretty good, especially since I managed to get a match right away. I feel like it's kind of a natural looking foundation. You know, it doesn't look heavy or cakey. It reflects light very nicely. It has a nice lightweight feel. It definitely dries back and it feels set. It wears off in just kind of a normal fade away kind of way rather than a slide around on your face kind of way. And it doesn't necessarily need powder, but I really like the powder that is in the collection, the Candid powder, so that's not a bad one to try if you pick it up and you feel like you might like powder with it. So on the con side are that it's not really that easy to apply. It is a little thick and a little bit difficult to get on there, but if you work with it right, you can get it on your skin looking good. It does settle in wrinkles. Unfortunately, every day I wore it, it settled into my wrinkles to some degree. It clings to patches of dry skin and doesn't look that pretty. And the wear time was fairly short. I tried it with a whole mess of different primers and I really couldn't get the wear time up. It's a pretty mixed bag. I'd say that, you know, it might be worth a try if you're looking for like an everyday makeup. So I think it's probably best for people with more textured skin than actual wrinkled skin. So, you know, if you have enlarged pores and stuff like that, it was a little bit smoothing from that standpoint, but where it did settle in wrinkles and it did kind of skip over some pores, for me, it just wasn't a hit. I'd love to hear from you as far as if you've used this and how much you liked it and how you thought it did on your more mature skin. But rather than this, if you're looking for a drugstore foundation, my holy grail foundation from the drugstore is the L'Oreal True Match, and this has more colors than the Revlon. It comes in more shades. It's a lighter weight formula, so it doesn't skip over my pores. It doesn't settle in my wrinkles. The wear time is about the same as the Candid, you know, 5 to 10 hours. It'll look good, but it also fades away naturally and looks nice while it does it. And it looked great out in the sunshine too. So this for me is a far superior foundation. And most people will usually ask where I got this cap. Just about any pump cap from any other 1 ounce foundation or product should fit on this bottle. I just like to take it off of a foundation that I didn't like so much. And then of course I always like to mention my holy grail foundation, which is the Chanel Perfection Lumiere Velvet. This is fantastic. Obviously a way higher price point than something like the Revlon Candid. It doesn't settle into wrinkles, doesn't settle into pores, and it doesn't need primer or setting powder. So you save a lot on those other products because it really doesn't need those. So anyway, those are my faves, and I guess that's pretty much it for this foundation Friday. So if you found it helpful and informative, go ahead and give the video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell while you're down there. Thank you so much for watching. You know, I always really appreciate your time. So have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.